Hello everyone, TLSG here, back again with another Marvel Snap video. So we should be able to pull a new mystery card today, but before we do, I need to say my pre-pull spiels. Thank you guys so much for all of the support. I say it every single video, and I absolutely mean it every single time. You guys and your support have just been incredible, and I don't think the channel would be anywhere near where it's at today if it weren't for you guys. So thank you guys so very much. And then with that, we are almost to that 2,000 milestone. We are right around 1,700 and the game is still in closed beta. So thank you guys so much for all of that support, continuing to come back and watch our videos, continuing to help me generate ideas for once we do end up hitting the end of the collection log and what those next steps would be. And so I know in about another week or so, we will hit that 2,000 mark unless we just see some incredible support and growth. But either way, even if we kind of stalled out and stopped where we're at, I appreciate each and every one of you guys that come to these videos, that watch the video, even if you don't leave a comment. But of course, I do appreciate the comments as well. So if you're watching this and you're not subscribed, that is my heartfelt spiel. If you guys like the content, maybe consider subscribing. We do daily Marvel Snap content here, as I'm sure you're aware, and it helps the channel grow and expand. So with that out of the way, let's go ahead and pull a couple of reserves. I think we have 6 that we can unlock. Oh, okay. So I thought we got a new card, but it's just a variant. And so we have a Green Goblin variant. So maybe if we pull a Black Widow here, we can put that to use. Let's open up our next reserve. We get some boosters. Okay, and so then the next one, Ultron. So Ultron is going to be very tough. So we don't have Mystique yet. So building a deck around Ultron is going to feel a little bit limited. Because of course Ultron on reveal create 4 1-powered drones at each adjacent location. And so to be able to make good use out of this card, typically you want to have something like a Patriot and a Mystique. That way each of those tokens that it creates get a 4-power buff. But with that being said, I don't know that it's out of the realm of possibility to make one that would perform decently anyways. So I'm going to go ahead and jump over into the deck draft to see if we can make an Ultron list without Mystique that performs well. All right, so we did end up putting a deck together, and it it feels like it is just a mismatch, a patchwork deck filled with all kind of odd and end pieces, but I promise each one is there for a specific reason and to do a specific job. So when running a Patriot Ultron deck or a Patriot Mystique Ultron deck, really all of the other cards in the deck are just there as fillers. Your bots are going to be the biggest priority and your biggest win condition. And so then the question becomes, what do you fill the rest of your deck with? And so let's run through what I added into mine and why. So we're going to start off with the common. We have Patriot. Ongoing, your cards with no abilities have +2 power. This is going to target the Ultron drones and give them +2 power. Then a 4-power lane becomes a 12-power lane, and then you can do some other things to extend this further, but it increases the potential upside of Ultron drastically. Then we have Ultron, our new card. On reveal, create 4 1-power drones at each location, each adjacent location. This is going to be primarily targeted at the center location to be able to send those Ultron drones to both the left and right lanes. And so what do we have going on with the rest of the deck? We have Kazar as a potential Patriot substitute, so we're not going to draw into Patriot every single game, although we would want to. Kazar is going to be a pseudo replacement. He's not going to be quite as good, but he still gives an upside. So Kazar is going to give an ongoing, your 1-cost cards have +1 power. The Ultron drones that get created are 1 cost, so they are going to get the upside from Kazar, even though it's not as good as a Patriot. And so then we have Hood. Hood is going to be a target for our Viper, or to be played in lanes that either it's going to be destroyed or lanes where we are not really going to be competing for that win. And then the Hood, of course, creating a 1-cost 6-power demon token, and that demon token can be used in the left or right lane, and it's going to get both the Patriot and Kazar buff. And so then you can push some additional power, some kind of sneaky power into those lanes pretty easily. Next up we have Goose. So Goose is one of our newer cards, our newer additions to our collection. I feel like it's going to be a decent card in this deck. So we're going to be able to play Goose in either the left or right lane to limit what cards the opponent's able to play there. If we can stop them from dropping the large cards like Magneto, Infinite, Ghost Rider, Devil Dino, that's going to make our drones a lot more likely to win those locations. And so by dropping Goose into the left or right lane, we can help our bots win that lane by limiting the number of resources that the opponent can play in that lane. And then we have Viper. Viper, on reveal, your opponent gains control of one of your other cards at this location. The primary target for Viper here is going to be the hood. We could send a squirrel if maybe one of the locations was either Shadow Valley or Central Park to be able to clear up our space and clog up the opponents. And then we have Green Goblin. So Green Goblin is going to check a couple of the boxes that we need. Green Goblin is going to negatively impact their lane space, it's going to negatively impact their power level at that location, and it's going to keep our lane free to be able to play the maximum number of bots into that lane. Next up we have Storm. Storm is similar to Goose in this deck. We're going to want to drop Storm in either the left or the right lane to limit the number of turns that the opponent can play resources there. If we drop Storm on 3, the last turn they can play resources is 4, so most likely they'll have 1 or 2 cards there. And then on the last turn, when we send 12 power in our bots into that lane, we get a massive upside and we can usually sneak away the lane and the win because of that location. And then we have Killmonger in this deck. So Killmonger is mainly here as a way to free up middle locations or low rolls in the middle. If we draw into Raptor Valley where we get 2 Raptor tokens in the middle location, we need that space for our Patriot, for our Ultron. We need to be able to have the flexibility to play the cards that we need to there. So Killmonger is going to give us the opportunity to clear that lane up so that we have the additional space to play and impact those other lanes from. And then we have Rhino. So we haven't used Rhino a whole lot, but Rhino has the on reveal ability ruin this location. So it is going to turn a potentially negative location into a neutral one. So if it's a Mindscape, if it is Bar with No Name, if it's a Death's Domain, we're gonna be able to play Rhino there. That way we can play cards there afterwards. And so another potential location would be the Big House, where 4, 5, and 6 cost cards can't be played there. If that popped up in the mid, we could drop Rhino in that location so we can still drop our Ultron, our Onslaught in that location to be able to push out those bots like we want to. We have Magic. So Magic is going to be in here simply to extend the game, to give us an additional chance to draw into our combo pieces. By turn 6, most likely or most of the time, we're going to be able to access our Ultron, but there are times where we may just need one additional draw to have that card in hand. So Magic is going to give us that opportunity, and it's going to give us the opportunity to have a potential really high roll game in the perfect setup. We would have Patriot on 3 and then Kazar on 4, both in the mid location. On 5, we could drop Magic in either the left or the right lane. On 6, we could drop Onslaught, and then 7, because of Magic, we'll be able to drop Ultron in the middle location. And then each of our Ultron robots are going to have 6 power in those lanes because of that potential high roll. And so that's why we have both Magic and Onslaught in this deck. Magic, I think, would be here even without Onslaught because it does give us that additional chance to draw into the resources we need. But I really do like the interaction between potentially being able to drop Patriot, Onslaught, and Ultron all in the same game to have some really high-powered cards. And so that is the rundown of the deck. We are going to go ahead and jump into a few games. I hope you enjoy. First up, we have Small Man 94. And this is our very first run with this deck. We threw together what I feel like is going to be a decent set, but honestly, it could go either way. We threw cards in like Magic to extend the game if we don't draw into our Ultron, things like Storm to lock down certain locations, because we want to kind of limit where they can play their cards and where we can play our cards, so we can get the most upside out of Ultron sending those cards off into those lanes at the end of the game. And so we do draw into Ultron here, which is nice. We can do something like a Green Goblin here, or we could do a Green Goblin here, knowing, actually, yeah, I like the Green Goblin into the vault a little bit better, knowing that we're at least going to have 6 power in our Ultron drones into the flooding lane. So I think it's a pretty good chance we'll be able to be competitive in the flooding location. So we're gonna lock that in. We're gonna send Green Goblin their way. Ooh, and they don't play anything into the flooding zone. So interesting. And so we may have a pretty decent shot at winning this this first attempt. We're gonna go ahead and drop a Viper. Oh, never mind. We can't. They have Sandman. So we're gonna go ahead and drop Patriot, who's going to benefit our 1 cost, 1 power rocks more than a Kazar will. Kazar is more of a backup in case we don't draw into Patriot, but the Patriot is going to serve us better here. We're going to go ahead and play Patriot. This is going to be so nutty. And then they have Arrow, which we played our cards there anyways. That's okay. This is so... Oh, Ultron is just such a weird card. I think we're gonna win this one because they can only play resources into Hala. So even if they have like a Doctor Doom, it's gonna send a 5 power here, a 5 power here. I think we win this one. Just such a weird little card. So they drop Magneto, and so they definitely win Hala, but that's okay. We have Ultron, who's going to push power into those other lanes. We're going to have a 12 power lane in both the left and the right. And that's not even like the ultimate high roll that we had either. Not a bad first running. Not a bad first running with this deck list. Let's see if we can keep it going. So next up we have Soyo Penguin, I think that's Soyo Penguin. And the first location is Sanctum Sanctorum, which is beautiful for us. That is exactly what we want in an Ultron deck. And we do draw into Ultron here, which is also very, very beautiful. You couldn't ask for anything better. We don't have any of our lower cost cards, which is okay. We don't need those. Those are there more for support. As long as we're able to get and be competitive in either mid or right, I think we have a really, really good shot here. So I'm going to go ahead and play the Green Goblin into Monster Metropolis. Usually we would play it into Hala, but since in Hala the cards are going to be destroyed after turn 4, we would put them negative. They could actually have their Green Goblin destroyed. We don't want that to happen. So we're going to go ahead and play our Kazar here as a cheaper alternative to Patriot, since we haven't drawn into Patriot just yet. And so then they drop quite a few resources into this mid location. They discarded their swarm, and so they are going to be able to swarm out this location if they want to. So we need to find a way to compete with them in Hala. Right now that is going to be our biggest concern. And so we could drop 7 power here, but they're going to have much more than we do. And so our Killmonger wouldn't target anything that they need. Our Rhino would reduce their power level a little bit, but not much. I think maybe we play our Rhino here, and then we probably hope for a magic next turn so that we can extend the game and get an additional read on what they need or what power level they have. Ooh, and they have Iron Man, which is definitely not good for us. Looking at our deck list, is there any way that we can win here? So if we do Magic Hood here, next turn we're going to be able to do 6 power in a 1 cost token that gets a +1 buff from Kazar. So it would be 7 and 7, so 14. That would make us 21. I think we might be able to sneak the win out through our magic here. We're not going to be able to compete in Hala because of the Iron Man. It's just going to be too strong. But they're going to cap this out thinking it's the last turn, which is okay. We're going to know exactly what power level their collector has. And so I think we win this one. I think we have a really good shot at winning this one. We shouldn't, and we're kind of sneaking it away. But we're going to drop our Demon and our Ultron. So that's going to be 14 power, which will put us at 21. It puts us just at 21. So it puts us for a tie in mid. We will win this left side, but not by enough of a margin to compete with them in Limbo. So we were able to bring it really close, but unfortunately the power level here was just too much to overcome. All right, so next up we have, I'm not reading that one, guys. I read all names, I'm not reading, I am not reading that one. So the first location is Mirror Dimension, which is actually pretty good for this type of archetype that we're wanting to run, in that on turn 4 it's going to transform into one of the other locations. This is going to be pretty cool and potentially help us lock down a lane in the game, because we're going to be able to drop Storm into this far right location on turn 3. At the start of the next turn. Do we still want to do that now? Do we still want to do that now that District X is on the board? Because we have no way to push power into the other lanes. I think we're going to go ahead and just go with it. We're going to drop Storm into District X here, which is going to change this location. It's a little bit too late because we've already switched our cards in our deck. And so then it does copy into the flooding location, which is what we were so excited about. With Mirror Dimension, it can copy into the flooding location, and then therefore locking down 2 of the 3 lanes, with the middle location still being available for our Patriot, for our Kazar, for our Ultron. But something that is a little bit lesser known about the flooding location and when it copies with mirror dimension, since it copied on turn 4, it's actually not going to lock out after this turn. We will have 1 additional turn to drop resources there. And so knowing that, what we're going to do something that I don't think anybody has done in this game so far. We're going to play Cyclops. We could do a Green Goblin to send over. We could do a Cloak and a Viper, but that's going to send one of our cards over. It feels like Cyclops is going to allow us to get the most possible power into this flooding lane as we can. Ooh, and they do drop some pretty decently powered cards, unfortunately. So we're not going to be able to push any more power that way. We can drop our Killmonger, which would bring them down to 7, but we're still not quite there unless something else changes. So unless we drop resources into Strange Academy and then it pushes them that way, would be the only way that could work. And so maybe we do something like this. We can drop Green Goblin, hope that it sends it over here. We can drop our Viper to try and be competitive in this flooding location. Or do we drop Viper here to allow us a couple of chances to get power over into this flooded lane? Yeah, we're going to go ahead and go with the random approach. They had a Hobgoblin. They had a Hobgoblin, guys. So they had a higher power version. Ooh, and then we send it back with our Viper. Oh my gosh. My man, I'm not saying your name, but I feel a little dirty about that one. That one was... that... Oh my gosh, what are the odds of that? Whew. Okay, so I think what we're going to do, we're just going to go with a Killmonger, which will lower their power here by 2. It's not going to take away any of our power, and we're going to go with a Rhino just for the highest power output we can into Strange Academy. We could do Cloak to get 1 additional power in this mid location, but I think as long as they don't have something that can push power around, I think we're okay. You know what? I'm gonna go with the 1 extra power. You never know. That may be the make or break here, and so they may actually retreat. I can't believe the high roll. I can't even pretend like that was any bit of planned. Sometimes there are just happy little accidents that happen, and I'm so glad we were recording for this new episode when that happened. So next up we have Frozen Fires, and don't think I forgot about you, Frozen Fires. We were trying for our Sandman ramp. We finally got it, and it just so happened that you probably had a bad draw and you retreated. I don't think I will ever forget Frozen Fires. So we do draw into the Hood and Viper here. We're going to go ahead and drop the Hood into the mid location, actually. And then we're going to send it over into their lane with Viper here. As long as this isn't Space Throne, then we... Not great. Not great, guys. So we can still put our Kazar, we can still put our Ultron magic into this location, but we're not able to use the Viper piece, unfortunately. So I'm going to go ahead and play Goose into the left-hand side. That way we can kind of constrict and limit how much power they're going to be able to push into that lane throughout the course of the game. We want our Ultron bots to have the highest chance or the highest possibility to win. And if they're stacking 6 power cards, it's going to be a lot more difficult to pull off that win. And so we are going to send our Green Goblin over in the Baxter building, because I anticipate that they will not just keep 1 resource into Atlantis. I anticipate that eventually they will stack other cards there. Okay, and so they don't end up dropping anything. So we are going to have the upside in Baxter building for now. It'd be nice if we could draw into something that would limit or constrict their play in those areas, but it doesn't look like we're going to here. So I think we're just going to play our Kazar into mid. We do have our Demon token that we're going to be able to play either into Atlantis or Baxter building, and then we can kind of go from there depending on what we draw into. So we still don't have our Ultron, and then they Jubilee into a Lady Sif, which discards their Odin. Ooh, so we do get our Patriot here. Oh, but we can't play it into mid. So maybe we push some extra power into this right-hand side. Of course, we can't play Patriot. No, we can play Patriot over here, but I think we balance out the power with Patriot and the Demon token, since we'll allow for an additional Ultron bot, if we draw into it, to be placed over here. And so let's go ahead and lock that one in. And so they end up playing what card in Captain Marvel? So Captain Marvel is going to be pretty versatile for them. It'll be able to fly around the board and end up going wherever they need to, or wherever it would win them the game. And then, of course, a very, very nice Captain Marvel variant. And so I can extend the game here. And then if we draw into Ultron, we'll be able to play Ultron here, which will then send power bots. If not, we can always do like an onslaught here, but that's not going to buff up anything other than our Demon. We could do an onslaught here, which would buff up the Hood and Demon. Ooh, and so they dropped quite a few resources into Atlantis this turn. Interesting. So I didn't think they would drop anything there. So they drop a wave, and then they drop a Killmonger. Oof. Which the Killmonger was pretty rough, because it does take away a lot of our upside from Baxter building. Oh, and it looks like we would have won that. We would have won that matchup had we just let the game end there. But I think we still stand a pretty good shot of winning nonetheless. So we're going to be able to have 6 power over here, but of course we're going to lose 5 power. We're going to have Ultron, which would come up over this power level here. We're going to send some Ultron bots over into the right-hand side. I think we have a decent shot at winning this, depending on what this card is, what they played. As long as we can win Baxter building, that should be enough to keep us in the lead in Atlantis and Limbo. But if they're able to swing that location, it becomes much more difficult for us. And so maybe they do a Ghost Rider, which resummons Odin here. And which would re-trigger. Oh my gosh, that Captain Marvel almost came in clutch, which would have re-triggered Green Goblin. But since we had initiative, we played our Ultron first. We, of course, capped out the Baxter building lane. And so the Odin was not able to send Green Goblin back our way, thankfully. But their Captain Marvel did end up moving over, winning Baxter building for them. But we were just barely able to keep the lead in both Limbo and Atlantis after she moved. So it was a very, very close match. I appreciate you staying and sticking around this time, Frozen Fires. The magic really did save us in that game. It was magical. It was very fortunate that we drew into magic to extend the game, and then we were able to top deck into our Ultron. That's what she's in here for, is to kind of help even out your draw for the games where you don't draw into your Ultron, where you don't draw into those key combos and key resources that you need. All right, so next up we have Flaw. And the first location is Crimson Cosmos, which is not great for us. We typically want to stack our 4, 5, and 6 cost cards into this middle location, and it's going to encourage them to push really high power cards that way. So I am going to put our Goose into this unknown location on the right. That way we can limit what power level cards they're able to place over there, to try and limit what they are able to do and how much they're able to play. And so the Crimson Cosmos here, actually, we would, if Dream Dimension was not this last location, on turn 5 we would be playing Magic. That would allow us to play Onslaught on 6 and then Ultron on 7, but we're not going to be able to play Magic on curve, because Dream Dimension is going to cause it to cost 1 additional energy on turn 5. So instead, I guess what we do is we stack our Patriot and our Kazar. That way our Ultron bots are going to be 4 power. It's not as high, it's not as great, but it is going to allow us to stack some power there. And so then, all right, so the Patriot Kazar was too much. I'm guessing they probably had a bad play line. But the next couple of plays for us would have been a Killmonger here, or a Storm. It didn't really matter which direction we went with it, but most likely a Killmonger. That way we could play Ultron on 6. That would cap out this location, so we'd be competitive in Mojo World. And then Ultron would send out 4 power bots here and here, and then it being hard to drop high power resources into Dream Dimension and Crimson Cosmos while you're trying to be competitive in Mojo World, most likely would have been able to win us the game by keeping up that high tempo. So next up we have Mess, and TVA is the first location that turns up. Depending on what it looks like, we do have the ability to change that location if we need to. But then of course Crimson Cosmos comes up, which is going to be difficult for us to play our Patriot into. We can still drop our Ultron there, but it still becomes difficult because then Patriot will take up a space. They have a pretty cool split of Mysterio here, and then of course it can't add that card into Crimson Cosmos because it is a 2-cost card and it counts as being played there. And so here I think what we do is we're going to go ahead and send a Green Goblin there, we're going to go ahead and send a Green Goblin their way. Next turn we will most likely drop our Storm into TVA. That way we switch that location, we can extend the game, and we can kind of play to our strengths. They're probably going to play resources inefficiently here to try and push power out early with the anticipation that the game is going to end after turn 4. Okay, and so they do play 2 more cards here. So they play Blade, which discards the strong guy, and they play Lady Sif, which discards a Shang-Chi. So they are playing in a way that they are anticipating this game to end. So then we do get 1 additional energy here. So we can either do Storm, we could change it with Magic, but I'd rather drop Magic here. And so in that case, we would need to do Storm into this location. And I don't think we use our additional energy here. I don't think we need to. We could play Viper, but I don't think that's going to be beneficial. So next turn, on turn 5, we'll be able to do a Magic, or we just do Patriot and then Ultron, just do a straight up play and don't extend the game. And so they play their Bishop here. I think that means they probably played the real Mysterio here because they're wanting to push additional power and resources. Either that or with the Green Goblin, they feel like they've already lost this location. And so let's see. We can extend the game, but maybe we do that next turn as a surprise play. And so in that case, we hold our Viper. Our Ultron bots are going to be 3 power. So it's going to be the same as if we play our Viper here. So I don't think we need to worry about that so much. They drop a Koye, so they do cap out this location. So depending on how much, or if this is the real Mysterio, I think we have a good shot of having this one won, depending on how many cards they play, depending on where the real Mysterio is, which I anticipate the real Mysterio being in Tinker's Workshop. And so do we go for the game ender here? So that's going to be 369 power, 369 power, giving us 10. And so depending on what they can drop here, I think we do. I don't think we stall and extend the game because we don't really get a lot of upside. And they're going to get upside in being able to play additional cards. So I think we lock in and we let the game play out as intended. So they drop a Sarah here. And so we are dropping our Ultron. We do win Crimson Cosmos because of that. We just have to win one of these other locations. And so if this is not the real Mysterio, we win. And then if this is not the real Mysterio, we win. So it doesn't matter where the real one is. We're going to be able to swing 2 of the 3 lanes in our favor. And we did have the right read on the real Mysterio being in the right lane. And the reason I was able to kind of assume that is I've played Mysterio, and you can, if you pay attention, you can kind of tell where they're favoring their power, where they're going to need that additional push or boost. And so since they dropped Bishop, they're wanting an additional large card to be able to push more power in that lane. All right, and so with that last game out of the way, we are going to go ahead and wrap up the video here. So we didn't get to do the high roll of the Magic Onslaught Ultron combo. It's there as a possibility, so sometimes you're going to get the high roll and you're going to be able to use that combination, but not very often. The rest of the pieces feel like they did what they were designed to do, and so Goose played a pretty cool role in limiting how many big cards the opponent was able to play in the left or the right lane. Storm, limiting the number of turns that cards are going to be able to be played into that location. All of it felt pretty solid. Everything performed how it needed to, except for maybe the Onslaught, which that's more of a high roll card. And I think you could probably replace this with like a Hobgoblin to give another chance to send negative power into their lanes to clog up and disrupt what they're wanting to do. But with that being said, we are going to go ahead and end the video here. I hope you guys enjoyed it. This deck list I found a lot more enjoyable than I thought I would. I didn't really look forward to Ultron, but even without Mystique, this feels fairly good. It feels fairly competitive for the most part. you're able to kind of limit what the opponent's able to do, and then use that restriction and that constraint to your advantage. So if you liked the video, make sure you leave it a like down below. And if you really enjoyed it, or if you would just want to interact with me, leave a comment as well. I do try to respond to every single comment that I get. I am a little bit behind just because of the overwhelming number of comments that we're receiving now. I am a little bit behind, but I do try to sit down each day and try to respond to as many as I can. So I hope that you guys enjoyed the video. This has been TLSG. Later, guys.